having been an investor myself more on the public market side, I just had a feeling about who was wasting founders' time to make themselves look good and say, I spent, 20 hours on female founder office hours and I mentored 5 founders and all that. And I was like, I don't really want mentoring. I just want cash and I just want tickets. So, Triin and C Ventures are writing tickets. I've heard about it from other founders. This is a person I'm going to be very direct with and say, this is my round size. I have a deck. This is what we're doing. Let me know if you want to see it. The expectation was quite clear.
Welcome back to Brown Girls Money Moves, where we hear from South Asian women founders and the investors backing them. I'm your host, Bhargavi Varma. Building a peer-to-peer startup from scratch is hard, but doing it sustainably, profitably, and on your own terms, now that's a different level entirely. And that's why we're thrilled to have Eshita Kabra-Davies, founder of By Rotation, the UK's leading peer-to-peer fashion rental platform and newly named Retail Entrepreneur of the Year, joining us today. We're also joined by Triin Linamagi of C Ventures, one of their investors and a fierce champion of women-led businesses. We covered how a cold LinkedIn DM turned into a funding relationship, how balancing authenticity and community with the risk of seeming cringe is important, and why the things that make you feel othered in a boardroom are often exactly what make you spot the opportunity in the first place. I hope you enjoy. Well, Eshita, Triin, thank you so much for joining me on Brown Girls Money Moves. We always celebrate first, so let's start with a celebratory moment. Eshita, I'd love to hear how you're feeling coming off of being named Retail Entrepreneur of the Year with By Rotation, and you're expecting, this is a joyful time. So how are you feeling?
I think overwhelmed and very grateful. I think those were probably the two feelings. It'll be my first child, so I don't know what to expect. And then again, it's been nice to see my OG baby, which is By Rotation, going from strength to strength. And obviously we've got Triin, who's one of our investors on the call. So I'm really excited about this conversation and reconnecting with Triin, who's just come off mat leave as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just about to say, Triin, congrats, first time mom and Jen. It's first time mom, correct?
First time, absolutely. I texted Eshita as soon as I saw news. I was like, oh my God, congratulations. If you need tips, let me know.
You're like, and this is the investor bond. We're going through our first time mom journeys around the same time.
Yeah, almost at the same time. But so proud of you, Eshita, for this big win alongside with massive retailers. It's huge.
I was going to say that, Triin. It's something that I've just doing research about you as well. I've heard you say that you really love talking about your founders' wins.
I just think celebrating women entrepreneurs with every small or big win is so incredibly important. And, sometimes we celebrate small wins, sometimes big wins, right? And I think doing that weekly, daily, monthly basis, whenever things happen, ad hoc basis, is just incredibly important, right? And also it sets role models and more opportunities for other potential entrepreneurs to look at this amazing female founders out there and say oh, I could become one, I could be that. And I think the more we share, the more we shout, the more we, celebrate, the more role models we will have in the industry, right? So it's incredibly important.
I love that. And I so connect to that when I think of the whole ethos of Brown Girl Angels and kind of why we exist and what we do. What we like to start every pod with is setting the stage in something that feels maybe like something you've lived before. Eshita, you're at a dinner party at your mom's home in Singapore, okay? And your mom has some of her friends over, and auntie comes up to you. And of course, as we know, she says an offhand comment oh, you look like you maybe are not eating enough for the baby, or something that just isn't warranted. And then she says, by the way, I heard you're selling clothes or doing something with clothes. What is By Rotation? How would you answer that to her?
Yeah, well, I would firstly thank her for being worried about me and the baby. And I would guarantee and assure her that I am looking after myself nutritionally as per medical advice.
Yes.
And then I would tell her that actually By Rotation is my first baby, and it's something that I've been Yeah, I've been nurturing for almost 7 years now. And it's actually the opposite of a clothing business because it is
Yes.
actually more of a community and tech platform where we're telling people not to buy more clothes and new clothes, but instead share what they already own, which hopefully they would understand if they're also from Rajasthan and India, which is so well known for its textile industry, all the artisans. And then I would explain that, incredible, amazing role models and women who, have day to day lives of, working at corporate jobs or being homemakers or being, nurses, teachers, all of that. They're also on the platform sharing with each other the clothes that are just sitting in their wardrobes, which they probably know a lot about because they probably have over hundreds of saris and Indian outfits from all the
Oh,
weddings that they
you
go
know
to.
it.
And therefore, they should also consider listing all these clothes that they have in their walk-in wardrobes and make some money for all the cocktails and holidays that they're going to take my mom out with.
That is a brilliant and so beautifully worded answer. And I mean, you encapsulated so much that we want to dive into because personally for me, and one of the reasons I was really excited about you both being on this is I've watched the journey. I mean, the journey of building by rotation has been a very visible, founder-led, community-led journey, and with a sprinkle of some press and really great press. I do want to actually kind of double click on one thing you said that I think people could use a little bit more information on about the textile waste in Rajasthan, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what you first had visibility to on your honeymoon. Can you just share a bit more about that?
So I was born in Rajasthan in India, which is very well known for its textile industry. And then I moved to Singapore when I was 3 years old. So I grew up in a very cosmopolitan city where, the national hobbies are shopping and eating. And I was really good at the former. Having worked as an investment analyst, I would often spend my salary and my weekends kind of being like, oh, I would love to buy all these amazing clothes and bags that I finally have income for. And it felt very empowering. While the guys in my team were buying golf clubs, I was buying handbags and on. So, that was kind of like my fix, I suppose, those consumerist shopaholic behaviors and habits that I'd picked up in Singapore. It wasn't actually until my honeymoon, which was now in February 2019, so about 7 years ago, just more, that I witnessed textile waste in my suburban hometown, just 2 hours away from Udaipur, which is a well-known city in Rajasthan. Now living in London, which is the Western world, where there's like a new fast fashion company being born almost every other week. In fact, now we have Instagram, D2C brands, thanks to drop shipping models. It became evident and clear to me that whatever I was doing, the way that I was living my life in the Western world, in my very privileged world, was actually impacting, Asian, African countries such as my own. And obviously, we all know the fashion industry in particular is not very inclusive, even when it comes to who they hire at companies and who they platform and, make famous and give, opportunities to. But I think what really upset me was when I read about Rana Plaza and the collapse that this, full of garment workers had in the couple of years before. All of this stuff I didn't know, having a desk job working at a hedge fund. This isn't something that I thought about. I thought that, brands such as H&M Conscious were actually great and that I was being a responsible citizen. Because, those were the brands that actually were greenwashing, essentially, with the marketing dollars that they had. So that's when I thought about a concept such as Airbnb and Uber, the sharing economy, and also Instagram, which a lot of people were using to share their outfits for inspiration. And I thought, what if we just brought all of these concepts together and, made a platform where you can book outfits from another person and then return them. You can make money, you can save money, you can save the planet by not buying more clothes, and hopefully these brands will stop manufacturing as much. So yeah, that was kind of like the I guess aha moment that I had, the eureka moment.
And also prompted by the fact that I'll raise my hand. I think the percentage is like, what is it, 25% of what's in a woman's closet that she actually uses?
Yeah, so we've maybe worn about 30% of our wardrobe in the last 12 months. Yeah. And obviously that's just an average. For some of us, we probably only wear 10% of our wardrobe because we have so much stuff. And we go through phases and trends and things like that, which, I've personally been monitoring my own consumption habits when it comes to fashion now, obviously because of my rotation. I lend everything that I own, and I mostly only rent now. I think I've probably maybe bought a couple of pieces of clothing this year. It's May at the moment. There are great new concepts that a few industry figures have created, such as the rule of 5, which is you can only buy 5 new pieces of fashion items a year. And then you have to find other ways to, repurpose what you already own or rent items, which is actually really great, obviously, for buy rotation. But I almost feel like shopping excessively is actually just lazy. It's almost a challenge to reuse what you have and find different ways to be creative about, having that experience of dressing different. There's like a lot of therapeutic work that's come out from it where I've understood that my shopaholic behaviors were, completely intertwined with other insecurities and laziness, to be honest, that I probably had as a defect in my personality. Triin might appreciate this as Finnish, because the Finnish, they are so much more sustainable just by birth, really. Like, you've probably not even thought about owning hundreds of items, Triin.
No, I completely agree. But obviously, there were certain things that drawn us to invest in buy rotation, as going back to like women backing women, understanding markets and all that, and based on our own experiences. So yeah, there's obviously a reason we backed Eshita, and a lot of that to just shared.
Triin, I would love for people to get to know you a bit more, because I think this whole entrepreneur turned investor journey is a really important one, especially in the work that you do. In, as we know, it's not just writing the check, it's supporting portfolio companies all the way through. So I'd love to just get a sense of what inspired you to, start your own fund, to syndicate with C, and kind of give an idea of the fund's thesis.
I was a founder before. I built 2 companies in fintech, one in HR tech space, did that for over a decade, and then transitioned to venture, really with an interest to share my learnings with founders, to avoid some of the mistakes I made, share some of the successes. And really that was my goal, and that's how I got into venture capital. To start with, I deployed capital on behalf of 3 different funds, and one of them was US-based, 2 others UK-based funds. And really what I realized after 5 years in venture capital is, we continue backing the same type of founders. And I always bring that analogy. It's usually a pale male from Yale, and most of them looking like Mark Zuckerberg, right? They come on the call, they a big pitch, but when you start kind of distilling down to numbers, to traction, to experience, it's not the same as when female founders come on the call and often maybe don't pitch as big picture, big vision, big ambition as sometimes male founders do. But they do truly have recognized the markets there, like Eshita's case, right? I mean, she knows there's market there, there's a problem there, and there's an opportunity there, right? And I realized that a lot of these women that came to the investment committees didn't get through the ICs, despite of how great businesses they had built, how much traction they had, how solid they were. I just felt like we continue backing the same type of people, the same type of markets. And I recognize, there's a huge amount of founders being underfunded who are women. And I really wanted to back founders on my own terms and back founders that I believed should be receiving this backing. So I couldn't really change that inside. I tried, but I could not. So I needed to go out and set up my own, and I set up C Ventures. And to be fair, we set up with programs because I also recognized throughout my journey and speaking with so many founders how hard it is to navigate venture capital. It's a very closed ecosystem. It's quite opaque. It's not very transparent. Unless you're an insider, unless you're a repeat entrepreneur, unless you have mates in the industry, it's really difficult to navigate raising from VCs. So when we started, we set up our programs to support founders to navigate the fundraise, working with them on the pitch decks and the financial models and storytelling and data rooms, but also really helping and supporting with investor reach outs and opening our networks to them. And we still run these programs very successfully. We've helped a lot of companies to raise capital. We helped a lot of women to oversubscribe, which is always such a big win because that's what we want to see more of. And we also launched our syndicate with angels and started investing about 3-4 years ago into women-led businesses. So today we've invested in 25 companies, including one of them was by rotation, founded by Eshita. And really loving what I'm doing since, and meeting incredible women. And I mentioned that in the beginning, that for me, it's really been setting role models for the next generations. And especially now when I have a baby girl, I want my baby girl as well to have a better future, and to look up to women ahead, and see that there's so many different avenues that women can take, right? Anything from deep tech to robotics to fashion to beauty, whatever you want to put your head into, and at the same time you can be entrepreneur. It's not just boys club. And there is many other reasons why I back women. I just genuinely believe that women-led teams return much better outcomes for our investments. Same goes for diverse teams. I believe massively in diverse thinking in teams and creating multicultural teams, diverse male-female teams, and just people coming from different backgrounds.
It's not a hypothesis anymore. I believe there's data to support that now too, that women founding teams do return, substantially more so. So, I mean, the thing that as I'm listening to you speak and, just bubbling with joy, to be honest, on the inside, because I think we are all, kind of speaking the same language, but specifically to you both, like the through line to me is that you're really redefining how you build, how you grow, and how you live, but on your terms. It's seeing something that you're like, I don't like how this is looking, so I'm just going to go fix it. What I'd love to kind of even distill on further, because this is a question that a lot of founders especially ask, is they see journeys and they see the stories, but they're like, but how did it actually happen? You both met through LinkedIn. Is that right? It's through a cold message. So I want founders to hear that story. I think that's one worth telling.
I'm trying to think what grabbed my first attention. I think it was a very short, nice message. It was a short message. Sometimes you get like really long messages on LinkedIn and you're like, seriously, don't have the time to go that through. So it was a nice short message, very on point. This is who I am. This is what I do. If you want to chat, here's my details. And maybe we were also at the time looking into the space. We might have, at least there were a couple of companies running through our deal flow in this space. So when Eshita reached out, I took it to our deal flow. And to be fair, I always say to founders who reach out on LinkedIn to apply on our website, unless I have time to take it to our deal flow on myself. In this case, I took it to a deal flow meeting. We had a discussion. One of my colleagues actually was a super user of by rotation. So she was like, no way we're looking into this. I'm really loving it. I'm using it. It's amazing, and that's how I was like, all right, you're a customer. Let's see what's in here. So it actually really started from that kind of customer journey perspective. And she was so excited about by rotation and really using it consistently. And I had never used it at the time. I had heard of it, but I was a big user of Rented, for example, right? So you buy, you sell, but I hadn't had experience with rentals. So we started to kind of diligence the market a little bit further. And when we had the first call with Eshita, I don't know if someone had a call before me, maybe Eshita remembers that better, but when I was on this call with Eshita, she just nailed it. Like everything you want to hear from a founder. She understands the market so well. So before you can even ask a question about competition, she was like, I looked at this company, X company, Y company. Like she had a full overview of the market. She knew exactly where she stands with buy rotation among the competition. And that says a lot when a founder really kind of lives and breathes the industry. And you really see that, you know, she's basically the brand of that business, right? You know, Eshita equals buy rotation to me because that's really came through that conversation as well. And there was that passion and also that the reason of why she started the business, what she shared earlier today with everyone as well. And that just all came through her excitement, but her confidence of understanding the industry so well. And obviously, when you ask the numbers, she also had the numbers. She clearly helps that you are an ex-investment banker, but it really did help to kind of get these numbers immediately. And she was like on top of everything. So we really had this conviction quite quickly about her as a founder and her being the right founder to build that business. And, there were a lot of questions about unit economics of this type of business and how it would work and things like this, which we went into later as well. But I think, first of all, you need to have that founder conviction. And that's what we got from this like first call, at least for me. I remember that so clearly. And I always bring that example of how we want to find more Eshitas to essentially back companies. And that's really the first thing we look at this early stage of the company's journey, right? Because there's still not huge revenues to look at and analyze. We are still in very early stage of the company's journey. That's how it all got started on my end. Like I actually became a renter myself after, signed up, made an account, rented clothes, haven't rented anything out yet, but thought about it recently actually.
Triin, you talked about really understanding the competition. And I'll say this, and I'm curious if you see this. I do hear pitches from founders where they say there's no competition to what we're doing. There's a nugget in there about understanding the competition. Can you dive into why that's important and how that builds conviction around a founder?
Yeah, I think if you don't have a competition, something must be wrong, right? You might be too early to the market, or there's just no validation yet, right? It's not always a positive thing. So I think, and oftentimes there is a competition. And I think like if you know your competitors well and you know where you sit in this category, it just shows what your advantages are and you know your advantages. And it's incredibly important because this market wasn't really massive, right? We saw a few players. There was Rent Runway in the US. There was her and buy rotation in the UK. That's it. The rest, yes, they're there, but they're smaller. So that's what we're really looking at. So it's really important to acknowledge, what your advantages are and maybe things you were thinking about that could work, that didn't work. You tried, you tested. Competitors have done this, they've done that. But why have you decided to stick to
your approach,
to the way you're doing things? Actually, with Eshita's case, I think we talked a lot about capex heavy models and why we liked buy rotation a lot because it wasn't that capex heavy. And Eshita had demonstrated that she had tested things out a lot before and talked about other competitors' pros and cons as well. It just helps to build investors' conviction. Because we will dive into the competition ourselves. So when you can lay out your thoughts very thoroughly on where you position your company among competitors, it just shows you're thorough and you will know where you stand exactly.
Big nugget. Market. That's so great. Eshita, isn't a cold DM that turned into an investment? We got to hear that story. Tell us about it.
Did have a very specific spreadsheet with, an outreach of people who made sense to be part of our new funding round. And Triin, I believe, has done a great job at, raising awareness for female founders that she has backed through C Ventures. And C has been pretty vocal about it as well. And, I said this, I think, a few months before I did a cold outreach to her. And I had a look, Triin, at the message that I sent to you. You're right. It was a very short, it was a concise, to the point, but clear message with our intentions. So, it had numbers in there, it had the objective, it was pretty direct. It was like, this is what we're doing and this is what I want from you. Like, this is the mission. If you're interested, let me know and I'll share my deck, because I do have a deck ready. Like, I'm not here to waffle around with you. What kind of helped was the fact that, I saw that Triin was actively writing checks and tickets. What really bothered me about the space, and I think it's happening less now, which is good, was during that time there were a lot of female founder office hours and just like a lot of noise on platforms such as LinkedIn, where people were talking about mentoring and supporting females, but no one was being clear on which tickets they were actually writing. Having been an investor myself more on the public market side, I just had a feeling about who was wasting founders' time to make themselves look good and say, I spent 20 hours on female founder office hours and I mentored 5 founders and all that. And I was like, I don't really want mentoring. I just want cash and I just want tickets. So, Triin and C Ventures are writing tickets. I've heard about it from other founders. This is a person I'm going to be very direct with and say, this is my round size. I have a deck. This is what we're doing. Let me know if you want to see it. The expectation was quite clear. It was like, let's only talk if you do have money that you want to write, and that you have interest for this, the industry that I'm working in. I really like Triin's, if I can say, no bullshit approach. It wasn't about doing charity and hearing me out because I'm a female founder and giving me a chance. It was like, we are writing tickets. You fit our investment thesis. Let's have a conversation. And then we can take it pretty easy and quick from there. And obviously, as Triin mentioned, it did help that one of her colleagues was quite an active user and customer of Rotation. Because if there's someone internally already pitching for you, and I wouldn't say this is like a warm intro or like I had friends at the fund, but actually I had a customer, which is even better, I think, than friendships and family members.
The advocating kind of just like happens organically. You can't create that.
Kind of like how it works for women, we have to let our product and service do the talking, because we don't have all these sort of boys clubs, that will help each other out and just join the round because my mate said to do so. That's the new founder that we're all backing. Female founders have to work twice as hard, if not way more, to prove themselves and already have an existing product or service ready, which is revenue generating. I'd say more so than these visionary male founders, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well.
Female founders don't want to be over-mentored and underfunded. I mean, that's the saying, and this hits it right on the head. I would love to talk about the business and the amplification around Rotation that, I'm sitting on this other side of the pond and I've been watching and following. Let's talk about that, because really, to me, at the heart of it is community and your story and your conviction, and that comes across. You can't create that. So what was your kind of way of thinking about it as you started to build Rotation publicly? Was it, okay, you know what, I should start posting because everybody is, or was it, content strategy is at the center of what I'm doing, or is it, I'm living my life online and, posting content, I should also just say this is what I'm up to.
When I worked in finance, I had a private account on Instagram. LinkedIn was mostly for speaking to headhunters secretly, or to add your colleagues or your ex-colleagues or just team members. We were just all lurking on LinkedIn back in the day. We weren't really using it actively unless a job change was probably on the horizon. So Instagram was private, LinkedIn barely used. Once I launched Rotation and went full time on it, I was posting more about the journey, but more about the press that we were receiving and how, like well-known people who I otherwise had no idea of. Like, we had Stacey Dooley, who's like a very famous presenter, and, she's done these amazing documentaries on the true cost of fashion. I had no idea who she was, because I'm not British. And, I was like, okay, these are actually big deals. So maybe I should put it online where other people might have a better awareness of what a big deal Rotation is becoming. And it's turning head. And then, it sort of came to, this sort of realization that by posting publicly about the wins of Rotation, I was actually getting new customers. So we are a, B2C to C business. So for us, it does help when people are being noisy about biorotation. It's really good that people are talking about us, and we have a very good reputation. So they do talk about us in mostly positive terms. When it came to LinkedIn in particular, I started thinking more and more as we looked at the customer database. The spend was mostly from professional women. And these were women who actually were they were lurking on LinkedIn more so than they were on Instagram, because on Instagram, everyone, a lot of these women didn't really follow brand accounts or engage with them. But on LinkedIn, they were interested in seeing, other career-oriented women and what they were up to. And obviously, this culminated in the round that Triin was also involved in through C Ventures. I raised a lot of capital from my own professional network through LinkedIn from a Google form that I created within 15 minutes. It's like a reverse, almost like a reverse roadshow, essentially. I don't really build in public. I do share our results, though. And I think it's really just about being... I think they call it a KOL in the industry, in the media world. They call it a key opinion leader. So it's about really owning sharing economy, circular fashion, and fashion tech as a female founder who has taken external investment and, who does practice what she preaches even in her personal life. I think it's really helped in me becoming the ambassador for the company. It's also a much more cost-effective way of doing marketing. Again, this also, comes back to the question that women have to do so much more compared to male founders when it comes to even consumer-facing businesses. But luckily, we tend to have higher EQ in general, which can be really helpful in building brands. So why not use that power that we've been given, like differentiate from male founders who might be thinking about creating sharing economies within fashion, or even other sharing economies for that matter.
Triin, as an investor, I actually remember being asked this question recently, like, is what your social presence or the company's social presence, how do you talk to that as being important, unimportant?
I think it really depends on the business you're building, right? And it does and it doesn't. It just makes it somewhat easier if it's consumer-facing business, and it just makes it somewhat harder if it's not consumer-facing business. But I've seen many cases where founders do really, really good brand presence, essentially, and brand profiling through their own branding for the businesses, despite being customer-facing. And I think it's great. You can lower customer acquisition costs, like in case of Eshita, right? I mean, the incredible opportunities that, biorotation has tapped into through press, through partnerships, like all that. I think it's because of Eshita being really authentic about her brand, about, herself, about, everything she shares on LinkedIn and public. And it is authentic the way it comes across, and it creates trust, and it creates that, feeling of community and everything that her audience is looking for as well, right? A lot of these women also using the platform are professional women. So actually LinkedIn, you might not think about it first, but it's a really good customer acquisition channel. It might not be the immediate goal for it, but it might end up being a very good customer acquisition channel, right? And also, I think it just creates trust for the brand. You get so much recognition, and you're sharing all your journey. And I'm very much for, LinkedIn sharing if it's done well. It takes time, but if it's on brand and, it's delivering, it's definitely 100%. I think just very few people can do it really, really well. And Eshita is always one of the examples we've brought to other founders who've been thinking about how can I use personal branding, we should almost like set up a session for founders, like with Eshita, how do you do personal branding for your business? It truly is such a great case study, right? Because, Eshita's doing really well for biorotation. It just really works. But yeah, it just needs to be very
Eshita, I can guarantee you there's someone out there who's like, wow, she was methodical. She thought about it, about why she should be on LinkedIn. But, oh God, how do I remove the cringe? Was that something that ever came up for you? And how would you answer that to someone who I can guarantee is hearing this and going, but it's people I know, and all the different things that come up?
I would say then don't do the cringe. I mean, I personally, anything that you see that's being posted, it's not written by AI. It's not even written by a team member. It's actually always written by me. Sometimes it's written by me while I'm lying in bed, and I'm like, this is so weird. Like, I should post about this. It's not me being like, I have to post something every single day or every single week. I know that, in the past, some of these platforms like LinkedIn have said you should post 3 times, and 1 post should be about industry and 2 should be about you building and, being in public. And I don't really agree with any of that. And I think part of the reason is that I think very highly of my audience, and I respect them and I respect their intelligence. A lot of these are my ex-colleagues who still work in investments, who they have really high disposable incomes. And one day, if they're not my customers already, they can be, or their female partners might be, or they might invest in the business, which, as I mentioned, recently I have had some of those. Anything that I put out there, I wouldn't want them to also find cringe and therefore think, why is she playing to the algorithm? Like, what's the need for needing to be present and take up space every single week? When you say something, it should carry so much weight that everyone is watching, is reading, is listening. I think that's kind of how I like to build the reputation of Biotation and myself. Like, it has to come with respect and it has to come with weight, because if you're a key opinion leader, then you should be respected as such as well. We behave quite strongly about that, which is also why we don't build in public, because we want to be sure about what we've done. And then we'll share with you the good things and the bad things, the mistakes we made and the results, whether they were good or bad. Then again, equally, I've been doing some videos which are a bit more lighthearted and amusing. They're come and run errands with your boss. And they actually perform much better on social media platforms such as Instagram, not LinkedIn. I guess every content has its type of audience, and we are learning what works and what doesn't. But I wouldn't feel the pressure to do something just because other founders are doing it and they're doing it so well. Like, you've got Jamie Lang, who does Candy Kittens. His content is so different from mine, and his generates so many views and likes. And, it's just a different product. He's a different personality. And I'm pretty sure his customer is very, very different from mine as well. There's definitely like an overlap, but it doesn't mean we need to show up the same way.
Beautifully said.
It's really flattering. Thank you. It's really flattering that, some people see my profile as like a good example, but I would say it's not applicable to everyone. And I think we shouldn't just blindly follow someone's profile, which some people do. And it doesn't work for them. It's very obvious. As Triin said, like, what's authentic and what's not. It's very obvious.
Let's also talk about what's kind of happening, what's coming up. I mean, there's the Uber partnership. Eshita, congrats. I mean, this is, so on brand for me that I get so excited. And I think generally when you have community, it shows that they just get excited about something that you're like, oh, of course, that makes sense. So congrats on that. And I'd love to hear both from you, Triin, and from you, kind of what's coming up in your world. Eshita, more from by rotation, and then Triin, you're seeing a lot of deal flow. What are some recurrent themes? What are topics? What are deals that you're seeing a lot more of these days? Can I just say a guess and say AI?
I think it's definitely not just AI. I think people think, oh, now everybody invests in just AI. I think AI is now a layer across pretty much everything, right? If you're building technology, what we're moving away from is AI just for the sake of it, to very much applied vertical use cases. At least that's what we are really interested in. Founders who deeply understand the problem, and they're really using AI as an enabler, and also they have certain sector expertise in that particular area. That's what we're really excited about. And then they apply this AI to become more efficient, move faster. And that's where a lot of conviction is right now. I think the other big themes really are capital efficiency and real traction and validation. If not traction yet, really validation and understanding how well do you really understand your customers, how much interest there is really from the customers to buy the product. And and people are just much more focused on businesses that can scale without huge burn, and where you can showcase a really clear early demand.
Yes.
And then obviously, as we've discussed as well today, community-led growth, it's huge, right? And the trust that you build among your customers, it's incredibly important, because essentially what investors and what we want to see is that you're actually building something that people genuinely want to buy and use, rather than not. So I think these days are gone. So you can kind of see through the BS very quickly. So for us, we do a lot of customer validation as well. If it's not with real customers on board already, then we do that with potential customers, back channeling, just making sure that, you know, this really is a product that is needed, and how it's integrated into the customer systems, backends, or whatever it is, or how they want to use it, and just the engagement from a customer side. So I think whilst you see AI is everywhere, the conversations are really much more about what you build with it, rather than just how you're using it.
Or rather than just putting the word in the deck and just hoping for the best.
No, unfortunately, that doesn't work anymore. But other than that, beyond that, we are like really excited still about climate and sustainability. I know not everybody is, but we still are. We're also excited about healthcare, fintech, AI, deep tech. I mentioned before, we want to see more women also operating in robotics, in deep tech, and really showcase more role models in more complex industries as well that have been historically male dominated. So we are doing much more there as well. But at the same time, all the mentioned sectors are areas we still look at. By default, don't do much in direct to consumer. We are actually currently looking at a really exciting deal in direct to consumer product space as well. That's my quick take on where things are here.
I mean, but from the time that we first met too, I was just so jazzed to just learn about what's happening on the other side of the pond, over in the UK, and just kind of talk to someone who I'm like, oh, we're speaking the same language. It's just so validating as we build Brown Girl Angels. Ishita, make the community happy. Tell us what's going on. Tell us what's coming up. Drop things that maybe nobody knows and it's the first time. Give us all the tea.
We've been working with Uber, and we've got another exciting second part to the partnership that we've had. The previous one was really centered around ski rentals that you can have couriered under 60 minutes. And then we're actually doing something which will come out this weekend with Reformation, the American contemporary women's wear brand, which is so well known for, being really, really conscious about its climate impact. They're actually climate positive. I think one of the very few, women's wear brands to do that. And then there is a very well-known departmental store in the UK, very well-loved and revered one, that we're going to do something in the summer with. And that is, again, a focus on our peer-to-peer, I'd say more celebrity side of things.
Love.
It's very much community oriented, and we're doing more of what we already do best.
You're dropping all the gems, the things that people love to hear. Revered brands, celebrity, and Reformation has just such a strong following. Let's close this out by doing something that makes so much sense for two brown girls and a woman that is invested in a brown girl. Give a shout out to a brown girl, a company, an entrepreneur, someone in your world that we should be amplifying and paying it forward to.
I mean, Eshita is on this call, and she's only one of the brown girls we've backed, but I've just been so impressed by her journey and how she's built by rotation. And I'm really excited to see where she takes it. And I think we have a lot of female founders who follow you, Eshita, and your journey, and more to come, I'm sure. So I hope you continue sharing all your stories and sharing as organically and authentically as you have. It's really, really, really incredible.
I'd love to give a shout out to Devisha Singh. Okay. She's a fellow Pakistani woman. She's a brand consultant who has launched the likes of Bumble and Snap in India. So she's really, really good on the general manager and market expansion into India side of things. She's been such a woman's woman, such a girl's girl, which honestly, we work in such a competitive, space where everyone's for themselves, but she's the kind of person who has been very generous with introductions, because honestly, that's one of the hardest thing that you can do as you get, more and more, I guess, up in the ladder or whatever. Like, it's always those introductions that are so hard to come about. But Devisha has been really, really generous with those. And yeah, I'm very lucky to meet women like that, kindred spirits. And it makes me feel like we must have done something right to cross paths with her.
Love it. And just like such a perfect ending about the generosity and community, and building community, and the importance of that in all the different ways. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for your time.
For more insights around angel investing, South Asian female founder stories, and belonging to a community that builds and funds brown girl businesses, join the conversation online at Brown Girl Angels. As always, thanks for listening to Brown Girls Money Moves with me, Bhargavi Varma.